Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to another video in the series where I'm trying to start my own tech company. If you haven't seen my other videos, I'm working on a productivity app that's also a video game. And if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, go ahead and click the first link in my description to sign up for my mailing list, and I will send you an email when the beta version of my product is ready for testing. Okay, over the past week, I've been working on adding some characters and dialogue to my game, and I want to show you the progress that I've got so far. Since last week, I've added some characters here. On the top left, you can see a blacksmith guy working away at smithing a sword. So if the player gets close enough to him, you'll see a interaction dialogue pop up above him that prompts the user to press E to talk. So if I press E on my keyboard, it spawns a dialogue beneath the characters, and the NPC will generate their dialogue there. So the dialogue box below is custom sized based off of the dialogue that each NPC has, and it also supports multiple lines of dialogue. So if I walk down here to the right to see my merchant, it says press E to interact. So again, that's customizable. And he says we're out of stock right now. If I press E again, it advances the dialogue, and he'll say, please come back in the future. I'm pretty happy with these results, but I only got this far because of two really helpful tutorials here on YouTube by a creator named Nothing. And you should definitely go follow him and check out his channel. But if, like me, you're on Godot 3.5 because of the browser support, then his tutorial won't work for you out of the box. There's a couple key syntax things you're going to need to change. So let me walk through how I got this working, and hopefully it'll help you. All right, here we are in my blacksmith scene, which you'll probably recognize from the main map I just showed. But let me call out right away that there is a blacksmith sprite, which is the actual NPC I added, and that is a child of the blacksmith house scene. And then as a child of the blacksmith sprite, there is an interaction area, which is a reusable scene, and then a collision-shaped 2D, which is unique to this scene. Let's first take a look at the script for the blacksmith house. I have two onReady vars, which are the interaction area and the sprite, which are both children of this scene. Then I have a variable called lines, which is the series of dialogue that this character is going to say as you interact with him. I have an onReady function here, which is going to grab the interaction area and then set an interact method on it. And this is one of the first things that's going to change from the Nothing tutorial. He passes in a callable function here, but that syntax is not available to us in Godot 3.5. Instead, we need to pass a reference to the function that exists on this container scene. In this case, it's the blacksmith house scene, but in other scenes, it would be like my merchant scene or my warrior scene, whatever the character scene that this method is, you're going to have a custom onInteract function that will manage this specific character's interaction. Jumping into the interaction area script, there are two main jobs of this script. One is to set the interact method, which is that function that we were calling from the blacksmith house scene. And two is to send signals to our interaction manager to let the interaction manager know that, hey, our player is within the zone to be able to interact with this NPC. The interaction manager is a scene which is an autoload singleton that's going to spawn this E to interact text above each NPC or interactable zone within our game. If I jump into the script, the Nothing tutorial covers most of this better than I can, but there is one key area that you need to know is different, and that is the sort custom script. So here, the syntax is just a little bit different, that we need to pass a sort custom function. Then we need to pass in the object where that function exists, which is this scene, which is why I'm saying self. And then we need to pass the name of that function, which is called sort by distance to player. And then I'm defining that function here on line 33, func sort by distance to player. That's very similar to the Nothing tutorial. The key difference is how we call that function on line 24. Okay, the last major change here in the interaction manager is on line 45. Instead of the await keyword, we have to use something called yield. So we're going to pass in the function that we're waiting to finish and then the signal that we're waiting for, which in this case is the completed signal, which emits from every function that runs in Godot 3.5 when they're finished running. And instead of calling the interact function directly from that scene or from that object that gets passed into the active areas array, which is a scene, we're going to have to use the call function because it is a function reference instead of a callable function from Godot 4. It's a little bit confusing. Hopefully you follow along. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions and I'll do my best to explain. All right, so the function that gets called here is actually passed in from the blacksmith house scene, and that is this onInteract function. And that function is going to call our dialog manager to start the dialogue and pass in the global position of the sprite so we know where to spawn that label, and the lines array so that we know how many lines we have to step through before the dialogue is finished for this character. You should watch the Dash Nothing tutorial if you want to know exactly how this dialog manager works. I only had to change a small few things in order to get this to work in Godot 3.5. And that was on line 29, I changed the way that we're connecting to a signal, and on line 31, I changed the way that we're setting the global position. Both of these changes were necessary in order to get this to work in Godot 3.5. And the last thing I want to look at is the actual text box scene itself, or the script on the text box scene. Over here, I'm going to click that script icon to get us into the text box script. So I had to change lines 24, 29, and 30 here because if you followed along with Dash Nothing, we were awaiting for the resize signal in the text box to finish, which means we're sort of like waiting for the text box to be the correct size before we start displaying text. And again, in Godot 3.5, there is no await keyword. So we're going to have to call a function called yield, and we're waiting for the resized signal from this scene. So we're passing in self to designate that this is the scene that we're waiting for. Hopefully all that made sense. That was a lot to cover in one video. I understand now why Dash Nothing broke it up into two different videos, one for the interaction manager and one for the dialog manager. But if you have any questions on anything that I went over, please leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer them in a timely manner. As always, thank you for following along with this project week to week. I'm really trying to get to a point where I have a playable demo soon, and I'll let you know as soon as I do. Thank you again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.